Very good morning. Welcome to the Saturday preview. Coming to you live from Southwell Racecourse this morning. Probably hear the bell going for the 11:37 at Crayford or wherever it is in the background. It's very quiet here at the moment. We're a couple of hours, 3 hours before racing. So I thought I'd get here nice and early so that I can sit down and look at the decks as they were coming out at 10. Try and find a winner or two for tomorrow. And some interesting races tomorrow. Some interesting races. I'm not sure, don't know how many bets there'll be, but I think the first thing we ought to say is in the first at Newbury, the 115, we are going to see the reappearance of Tremwedge. Now, those of you that take the eye catchers off me each week on the Daily Punt will know Tremwedge was one I put up at the beginning of December after a really eye-catching run behind A Wave of the Sea and Cerberus at Fairyhouse, where despite pulling pretty hard and not finding a lot of room at the key stage, ran on really well. Only got beat 6 lengths when it was taken out wide, and I just thought it was a really eye-catching run. Since then, of course, now been sold. Now in the care of Alan King, at a novice hurdle tomorrow, not a juvenile hurdle, a novice hurdle tomorrow at Newbury, and I would suggest that if he can go reasonably close in that, in what's, I'm not saying it's a weak year, but it's a funny year this for the juveniles, because the juveniles that we've got are all sort of front runners and the like, and Tremwedge, will be well suited to a fast run Triumph hurdle, judged on what we've seen so far. So if he can go close in that, I'd suggest he's a lively outsider for the Triumph. He's probably more a Boodles type. We'll see. We'll know more after tomorrow, but he is a really interesting one. We'll come back to Newbury for the Betfair hurdle in a bit. I may be at Newbury tomorrow. I think it's more likely at this stage you're going to be working at Warwick, where there are some more interesting key races. We've got the Kingmaker at 2:05, where I am finding it hard to go against Newbury Negra, simply because Newbury Negra jumps so very, very well. And he's already shown that he acts round work. I think coming back left-handed will suit him. He didn't do a lot wrong at Sandown. I just think he'd be happier coming back left-handed again. And you can't help but be impressed by him. And when he beat Ballymoy here in October, just jumped from fence to fence. Similarly at Fakenham the next time. And Fakenham, I thought if everything's going to catch him out, Fakenham will catch him out. Catches loads of novices out. It's a very, very difficult track for novices, and he was pretty much foot perfect all the way around and travelled like a dream. I think he is a bare 2-miler. This will suit him again tomorrow, and it's not hard really to see him having a few of these who've got bits and pieces to prove in some sort of trouble. So 13.08, listen, if that's your sort of a price, then I wouldn't be putting you off. I think that's a fair price. The mare's hurdle that follows at 2:40 is quite interesting, because you end up sort of looking at these and putting the pen through a few of them on varying reasons. If Jamie Snowden's team are in better form, then Early Morning Rain would be interesting. Just never really went at Haydock for whatever reason. Had a short break since then, and she must be capable of better than that. But Jamie Snowden's not running well at the minute. He had that really good spell through the sort of late autumn and into December, but they're struggling a bit at the minute. Copper Gone West, she'll appreciate the extra furlong, but she's not got a lot in hand of Coded Message, and the pair of them both sort of improving mares. Coded Message, I'm sure, wants 3 mile. Really, this drop back to 2.5 is not going to suit her. Every time you sort of watch what she does, there's a period where she gets outpaced and then comes back on the bridle late on and fights away. But I don't see her appreciating the step back. Chitty Diamond's an unknown quantity. We don't really know a lot about. Capsule would probably win this on her form of about 3 years ago, but what she's capable of these days, I don't know. I thought Indefatigable at 11:4. If you've got to forgive Abaddon at Sandown, where they gave the excuse that the sticky ground just didn't suit her, and that's fair enough, because I think if you take that away, her second to Dame de Compagnie at Cheltenham the time before, and her second to Lady Buttons at Weatherby the time before, that's very, very solid form, and would probably entitle her to go off favourite here. So you just need to forgive one bad run, and the fact that the ground's drying up tomorrow a little bit at Warwick will suit her. I think she's got plenty in her favour. It's just, as I say, a case of forgiving one bad run, and if you can forgive her that, then the sort of 11:4, hopefully there'll be some 3-1 around as well, is fair enough. I think she's the most likely winner of that tomorrow. 3:15, This handicap chase. No, I think the best bet of the day runs in this for me, in this handicap chase. The way I've sort of looked at this is you've got a few horses now that are probably right at the top end of their marks. Not sure there's a lot more to come from Garda Ball. You're talking about a 10-year-old here off as high a mark as he's been off. I know he's in good form. Trip's fine for him. Ground's probably okay, but you know they've gone for the cheap pieces as well tomorrow. There's enough there to put me off. But nobody picked on. I'm not. Again, Venetia's horses at the minute are running nowhere near well enough to tempt me in at sort of 7-2. I get that he could be the one that takes a step forward tomorrow on what he's been doing, but Venetia's horse is very, very patchy, and she had 3 out earlier in the week, and none of them were sighted at Ludlow, so I'm taking his on at the minute. Clondor Castle, on some of his form of last year, would look really well treated off 143, but he's didn't really fire when he was behind a few of these in the Bet Victor, in the Caspian Caviar, I should say. Probably the drop back to 2 mile will help. Cat Poli won a race at Weatherby, which I'm not sure the form's that strong, and he's been put up £4 for that. And I ended up coming to the conclusion that this is a really good chance for 2 Taffs, who, if you go back a couple of years, he's only £1 higher now than when winning a listed contest at Ayr back in 2017. Now, since then, there's obviously been some problems because we've only seen 2 Taffs 3 times, but he certainly gave the impression at Weatherby on his first start behind the World's End that he retains his ability. That was over 3 mile. Then they tried him over 3-2 in the Ladbrokes Trophy stroke, Hennessy stroke, whatever. I don't really think those are his trips. 3 mile, 3 mile 2. He just about gets 3 mile, but I think he's happier at 2.5 on drying ground on this ground tomorrow. The fact that he's only £1 higher than that Ayr mark, and the fact that he seems to have retained his ability, makes me think that tomorrow could be his day. Fitness isn't going to be an issue. He's been off for 70 days, but from Dan Skelton's job, when is fitness ever an issue? So I think tomorrow the stars are aligning for 2 Taffs, and I think he can win this and then probably go on and have a crack at something at Cheltenham, I would say. What else have we got tomorrow then? We ought to have a quick look, as I say, at the Newbury card. You've got 2 odds on favourites in Native River and Altior. Native River I'm obviously with, because I have backed him already for the Gold Cup in the hope that we get deluges on the week. If that happens, then Native River will have his chance. If not, probably gets outspeeded, but I thought 16-20 to 1 was fair enough to take a chance on that. He says, as he looks out the window and sees bright sunshine. So I think Native River probably wins. Altior, yeah, I mean, look, if Altior turns up with his A game, he'll beat that lot. The only sort of interesting thing from a betting perspective, I thought, from those 2 races was in Native River's race. A lot of those horses in there are sort of stepping up from 2.5 mile or are coming back off a break. You've got Secret Investor, Trip, maybe. Second to OK Corral at Warwick over 3 mile, but since then has been dropped back and seems happier over 2.5. Activial's like the kid you always knew at school that had a note for games. There was always something wrong with him, and it's the same with Activial. There's always an excuse for Activial. I can't have him, although he probably just about gets 3 mile. Atwathil does get the trip, but first to run for Gary Moore, coming back off nearly 150-day break. Mike Bite's been put in a second favourite. I think somebody's got in a time machine and travelled back to the beginning of 2018, because I couldn't back Mark Bite at 13-2. Valdez, another 2.5 miler that's stepping up. All of which makes the 2 Amigos look moderately interesting at 25. I'm trying to find, I'll be looking for a bookmaker tomorrow that's betting each way without the favourite, effectively on a 6-horse race without Native River, because I can see the 2 Amigos going from the front tomorrow. Jumps boldly when he's on song. He's tough to catch. Ground should be ideal for him. And if he stretches the stamina of a few of these, I can see him in the 3 at the very worst. And he might, if he finishes second, then great, we'll cop the lot. So from a betting perspective, the 2 Amigos each way without the favourite, I think. If we can get some sort of 8-1, probably 8-10-1, I think that would make some appeal to me. So we'll see what happens with that in the morning. As far as the Betfair hurdle goes, there are 2 at the front of the market that are very, very hard to knock. Never Adapt, obviously, who looked it was just looked like it was a stone in front of the handicapper when he won at Kempton. Barry didn't even put him in the race until sort of the last sort of 400 yards, and then once he's picked up his run right away from Golden Taipan. Now, okay, you can argue that Golden Taipan's a consistent sort, but the fact of the matter is that that's just a case of a horse having his third start in this country that's still green, that's still got loads to come. Handicap's put him up 10, that's probably not enough. I think Never Adapt looks almost certain to be thereabouts. Again, the case for the Banner King Rebel would be that, you know, if Jamie Snowden's lot were in better form, it'd be very, very interesting. But the horse that beat him at Haydock, Stolen Silver, was a horse I really, really liked in the paddock. I think next year when he goes chasing, you'll see this horse take off. I think he'll be absolutely top class as a chaser. I really do. Showed a very good attitude at Haydock, and I know that was on heavy ground, but he got form. You know, his form behind Chantry House was on good to soft at Cheltenham, and he's got form on good ground as well in Bumpers. So I don't think they're bound to bother him. It'll be the fact that it's going to be a really strongly run race tomorrow, and it should be, with Not So Sleepy in the field. It should be really strongly run. That's going to suit Stolen Silver as well. Whatever he does tomorrow, as I say, he'll be a horse that I'm taking forward for next year. But I do think he's got a good chance tomorrow. Both of the reserves at whopping prices would be moderately interesting if they got in. Howling Milan owes us after his final hurdle fall back in December when we were on at fancy down prices, and he managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I think he would have won that day. He got a couple of lengths in hand when he came down, and he was still galloping on, so I think he would have won. Handicap's put him up 5, but with conditions fine. I know he's coming back, but he's got form over 2 mile here as well. I think he just enjoys Newbury, full stop. I think he's just a Newbury horse. 2 mile, 2.5, all comes alike to him. So I think he'd be moderately interesting. Similarly, I haven't given up on Distingo yet either. Cheap pieces go back on tomorrow, which is quite interesting. He's had a couple of goes without. I thought he shaped really nicely at Sandown. Maybe he did find that ground a bit too sticky for him there. But yeah, he came there 2 out with every chance, and I thought for a minute I was going to cop the lot. Then you're ending up shouting at the telly. I think actually we were shouting, "Get in the first 4, please," and you end up 5th. So the joys of extra places. So I think the 2 reserves, should either of them get in and be moderately interesting, but for me I think Stolen Silver and Never Adapt would be my 2 against the field in the Betfair. So there we go. Best bet tomorrow for me, I say 2 Taffs. I think prices should be going up in a bit. If we can get something around the sort of 5 to 1 mark, I think that would be fair. I think he could outclass that lot tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Right, guys, have a really good weekend. Hold on to your hats on Sunday. I'll be back here at Southwell on Sunday, working again, assuming the place hasn't blown away and the Gale Force wins. And I'll also be at Plumpton on Monday if you're down there too. So got a busy time coming up. Have a good weekend, guys, and hopefully back a few winners. Cheers. Bye bye.